Why did it have to be you? My mother's cold voice cut through the quiet of the living room. Her icy stare landed on my belly. I froze, unable to speak. I'm Moran, 25 years old, a housewife. My older sister, Tara, is 3 years older than me and has always been our mother's favorite. 4 years. I tried to earn her approval. When I found out I was pregnant, I thought maybe this news, her first grandchild, could finally bring us closer. That day, my husband Warner and I went to my parents' house to share the news. Tara greeted us first, her warm smile lighting up her face. Moran, it's been so long, she said, hugging me. My dad wasn't home yet, but Tara assured us he'd be back soon. When Mom walked in, her expression hardened when she saw me, though she quickly covered it up with a forced smile when she noticed Warner. Oh, I wasn't expecting you. Let me get something, she said, disappearing into the kitchen. She returned with cookies coated in sugar, something she knew I didn't like. Ah, that's right, Moran doesn't eat sweets, she said, her tone fake. Then, looking at Warner, she added, I'm sorry. Warner smiled and replied, it's okay, I care more about who I'm eating with. Mom's response was short, I see. When we all sat down, I took a deep breath and said, we came here today because we have something important to share. My voice shook, but I pushed through. I'm pregnant. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then Tara cheered, rushing to hug me. Congratulations, Moran, she said. But Mom's face darkened. Warner excused himself to take a phone call, and Tara went to the kitchen to make tea, alone with Mom. The tension was unbearable. Her mask fell. Why did it have to be you? She hissed, her voice full of anger. I tried to respond, but she cut me off. The first grandchild should have been Tara's, someone like you. Before I could understand her words, she kicked me hard in the stomach. Pain ripped through me, and I fell, screaming. Mom, stop, Tara yelled, running from the kitchen. Warner rushed back into the room, his face filled with shock and anger. Moran, he shouted, kneeling beside me. Tara called an ambulance while Warner held me tightly. What are you doing? She bumped into the dresser. Mom said calmly, as if nothing had happened, but Tara snapped. Mom, I saw you. You kicked her. The ambulance sirens grew louder as I drifted in and out of consciousness. Warner whispered, I'm here, holding my hand. Tara sobbed beside me. What if something happens to the baby? At the hospital later that night, I made a decision. It was time to end my toxic relationship with Mom, for my sake and my baby's. I thought back to a Christmas morning when I was 8. Tara, then 11, unwrapped a beautiful dress from Mom. It's perfect for Tara, Mom had said proudly. She is my daughter, after all. That moment stayed with me, a painful reminder of how I had never been enough for her. But now, things had to change. When my turn came, I eagerly tore open the wrapping paper. Inside was a pair of plain jeans and a t-shirt, likely bought on sale at Walmart. These suit you better, Moran, Mother said casually. I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded, holding back the lump in my throat. It wasn't just about the gifts. At meals, the difference in how she treated Tara and me was clear. She'd pile extra food onto Tara's plate and encourage her to eat more, even offering her homemade desserts. But for me, she'd limit my portions, saying, Moran, you need to watch your figure. As we grew older, the gap between us widened. Tara became a confident, popular teenager and was even captain of the cheerleading squad. Mother proudly attended all her games, taking endless photos. Meanwhile, I joined the track team and did well, but Mother never came to watch. I'm busy, was her constant excuse. Father sometimes showed up, patting my head and saying, good job, but he was too absorbed in work to notice the tension at home. In high school, I started realizing that my family wasn't normal. One day, my best friend Serena said, Moran, your mom is too cruel. I blinked, surprised. What do you mean? I asked. Serena hesitated, then said, she buys designer clothes for Tara but never for you. My mom wouldn't treat her kids so differently. Her words hit me hard, and for the first time, I saw the unfairness I'd been ignoring. Tara, unaware of Mother's favoritism, thought I preferred simple clothes. You have such a good figure, Moran. You look great in anything, she'd say, smiling. Sometimes she offered to lend me her clothes, but they rarely fit. Mother's cruelty was worse when we were alone. Her words were sharp and hurtful. Why did I have to give birth to someone like you? Tara would have been enough, she'd say. I learned not to cry because it only seemed to fuel her anger. On my 16th birthday, Serena and a few friends surprised me with a small party. Mother didn't give me anything that year. But the makeup set my friends gave me became one of my most cherished possessions. Around that time, I decided I had to leave home after high school. Mother sneered, with just a high school diploma, you'll never amount to anything, but her words only made me more determined. When Tara went to college, Mother proudly dipped into the family savings to cover her tuition. It's worth it for Tara, she'd say. No such money was ever set aside for me, but I didn't let that stop me. I worked part-time at a diner, saved every penny, and planned for a better future. Now, lying in the hospital bed, those memories came flooding back. The doctor assured me my baby was safe, and as I looked at the ceiling, I made a promise to myself, I would never treat my child the way Mother treated me. On my second morning in the hospital, Warner arrived early. When I asked, "Is work okay?" he smiled and said warmly, "You're more important." I met Warner 3 years after high school, shortly after leaving home. Starting out was tough. I worked at the diner while applying for office jobs. Without a college degree, I faced rejection after rejection. Finally, I landed a customer service position at an IT company where I met Warner, a systems engineer. Our first conversation was over a jammed printer. "You're always here early and staying late," he said one day. Curious, I admitted, "I want to learn as much as I can." For someone with just a high school diploma, this job is a rare opportunity. From then on, Warner often stopped by my desk, and we spent breaks and weekends together. As we grew closer, I opened up about my struggles with Mother, her favoritism, and Father's indifference. I was scared to share so much, but Warner listened. "No one has the right to deny your worth," he said, holding me close. For the first time, I felt safe enough to cry. 2 years later, at an office Christmas party, Warner proposed. Afterward, as we walked through streets glowing with holiday lights, he got down on one knee and asked, "Will you marry me?" I said yes without hesitation. 2 years after I left home, I returned to announce my engagement. As expected, my mother was cold. No decent man would marry someone with just a high school diploma, she sneered, but when she found out Warner was a systems engineer, her attitude changed. "Oh, an engineer," she exclaimed, suddenly acting nice. It felt fake, but Warner handled her behavior calmly. Tara, on the other hand, was genuinely happy for me. "I'm so happy for you," she said, hugging me and offering to help with the wedding. Even my usually distant father said, "He's a good young man." Our wedding was small, but filled with love. My mother smiled for appearances, but whispered hurtful words, "I don't think this will last." Her words didn't affect me anymore. I had moved on. Warner's parents welcomed me warmly and treated me like family. My mother-in-law was kind, praising my cooking and helping me adjust to married life. At work, I earned a promotion, proving my abilities despite not having a college degree. A year after we married, I found out I was pregnant. Warner was overjoyed, sharing the news with his parents, who showered us with love and advice. But I was nervous about telling my own family, fearing my mother would ruin the moment. Warner encouraged me, "I'll go with you." When we told them, the day turned into a nightmare. My mother's reaction was cruel. Later, during an argument, she kicked me in the stomach. Tara witnessed it and called for help. At the hospital, a social worker arrived to investigate. Tara bravely spoke up. "I saw it." She kicked Moran. My father was shocked. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, his voice trembling. Through tears, I explained how my mother had treated me all these years. "She acted like a good mother when you were around," I said. Tara cried. "I'm so sorry, Moran. I never realized." My mother lashed out, blaming me. "It's not my fault. She was useless." Unlike Tara, my father's voice thundered. "Enough, you're unfit to be a mother. I won't let you hurt Moran anymore." The social worker suggested a restraining order and counseling. My mother exploded in anger, trying to attack me, but Warner and my father held her back. Nurses stepped in to restore order. That night, my father made his decision. "I'm filing for divorce," he said, his voice steady but full of sadness. "Moran, I'm sorry, I should have seen this." The police began investigating, and my mother was removed from our lives. She sent hateful messages, blaming me, but I ignored them. Tara, however, became my biggest supporter. She visited me daily in the hospital, promising, "This time, I'll be there for you." With Warner, our baby, and Tara by my side, I knew I was finally free to build a better life. Warner's parents were a constant source of love and support during my recovery. My mother-in-law brought homemade soup to every visit, her warm words filling the void left by my own mother. "You're a precious daughter," she said gently on the day of my discharge. My doctor reassured me as I prepared to leave, placing a kind hand on my belly. "The baby is healthy, they'll grow up strong," he said with confidence. Warner wheeled me outside, Tara and my father walking beside us. The soft spring sunlight bathed us in warmth, and for the first time in years, I felt surrounded by true family. Before helping me into the car, my father hugged me tightly. "From now on," he said, his voice trembling, "let's live as a real parent and child." Tears streamed down my face as I nodded. The long winter of my life was finally over, and a new season had begun. In the delivery room, the doctor's voice guided me. "One more push, Moran." Summoning every ounce of strength, I bore down. Warner's steady encouragement in my ear. "You've got this," he said softly. Tara, crying quietly, rubbed my back. A strong, healthy cry filled the room. "It's a girl," the nurse announced, holding up the tiny bundle. When they placed her in my arms, I stared at her red, wrinkled face and tiny clenched fists, tears blurring my vision. "Nikki," I whispered, the name Warner and I had chosen. In the waiting room, my father held Nikki for the first time. Tears filled his eyes as he said, "She looks just like you did when you were born." 3 months have passed since that day. My mother's last contact was a voicemail filled with bitterness. "I'll never forgive you. You've taken everything from me." I later heard she moved out of state. At night, I sometimes think about her, not with anger, but with sadness. She's a woman who lost her way, who lost the ability to love. Tara's voice pulled me from my thoughts one evening. "Moran, I think Nikki's awake. It's feeding time." She gently handed Nikki to me. Tara had moved into an apartment nearby and visited almost daily, her gentle smile a constant source of comfort. "Nikki has your eyes," she said, gazing down at the baby. Nikki's brown eyes mirrored mine, but her radiant smile was all Warner. "My father retired early to spend more time with Nikki. I want to watch my granddaughter grow up," he explained. Every weekend, he visited, holding her for hours. One afternoon, he spoke to me with rare seriousness. "Moran," he said, "you've done so well. You've become a wonderful mother." His words were a balm for wounds I had carried for decades. Parenting wasn't easy. Sleepless nights, constant worries, and endless adjustments filled my days, but I was surrounded by love. Tara was my rock, always offering her help. Warner's parents treated Nikki like their own grandchild, knitting her clothes and showering her with affection. I joined a support group for mothers with complicated family histories. Sharing my story helped me heal. On Nikki's 6-month birthday, we held a small celebration. My father, Tara, Warner's parents, and close friends filled our home with laughter and warmth. As the setting sun bathed the room in golden light, Warner leaned in and whispered, "Are you happy?" I smiled and nodded. "Very." Looking at Nikki's peaceful face, I silently vowed to give her the unconditional love I never had. As if sensing my thoughts, Nikki reached out with her tiny hand, her touch reassuring me. This is where our real story begins. The spring breeze swayed the trees gently, promising a bright future ahead.